Hello there. We are on a family vacation right now, and Ray just decided, like, why don't we start a podcast? So this is the first one, and we had to think of a name. So the name that we thought of was
Mamma Mia
and the Mini Me, or Mamma Mia and Mini Me. Yes. One thing that you can think of is Righteous. What is my name on your phone when you want to call me?
I call my mom. Her name is Mamma Mia.
On your phone. She'll have to show you later, maybe a little clip in the side to see it. And then people are always saying, like, I didn't know if it was you or Righteous. Like, she's your mini me. I'm always doing a double take. Like, is that her? Like, they see her at the corner of their eye and they're like, I thought it was you. So we thought that would be the perfect title. So what Righteous thought to do is for us to go over one of Sadie Robertson's books, chapter by chapter, and discuss. So we are doing her book that's called Who Are You Following? Is this her most recent one?
I think so. There might be one
newer. Yeah, so we both read the first chapter. She took notes. I thought I was going to take notes. I didn't, and then we just want to discuss like some things that we thought of. So for me, right off the bat, she has Tim Tebow and his wife, Demi Lee, write the forward of before the book even starts. And they talk about how Jesus called people to deny themselves, to come and see in John 1:39, to experience abundant life in John 10:10, to receive true rest, which is what we're doing right now on vacation, Matthew 11:28, to be free and forgiven, which is Galatians 5:1, to be used by God in greater ways than even he was, John 14:12, and to spend eternity with the King of Kings, in John 5:24. So I just really love that beginning, and they like talked about other things, but I thought that was really cool to remember, like what we're supposed to do as believers. Yeah. Do you want to read your first notes that you have?
I think that one of the first things she talks about is like social media and the negativity of that, and affects teenagers like everyday life. So like, what would you say about social media like right now, like seeing the way the world is going with teenagers and the influence of all that?
Yeah. I think she does write about like how many hours are like devoted to social media, and she said like maybe many years ago it was like 2 hours to 3, and now it's like easily 7 hours. I'm like, that's insane.
Like for me, I'm like, how do you spend that much time when you're at school? Like,
True.
How do you
the moment you come home?
Yeah, and it's like you're just staying up at night because
before you go to school, you know. Yeah. I definitely think that can be very true.
Yeah.
So I agree with all that, and she is saying, what is your time going to? Is that your master, and like who are you following, and what people are you are influencing you? Like, is it because of how they look and you want to look like that? Is it because they're funny and you want to be that? So I think it was very challenging, and it really to be aware of how much time is being devoted.
Very true.
For me personally, I definitely can see that social media could be a negative thing if I'm mindlessly just scrolling and then like time goes by, I don't even realize it. So what I like to do for myself is like to see something that a person posted and then to like comment. Like I'm like, I rejoice, wow, you just have a little baby, or they said something that they just got the news from the doctor about a diagnosis, and I love to like stop right then and be like, I believe that Jesus can heal, is fully able to heal. I'm asking for him to do that right now, and if he doesn't, if that's not his will, that he will be glorified through you, through this circumstance. Like I like to write something instead of just scrolling and being like, I need to remember to pray, to like do it right in that moment. That's something that helps me. Yeah.
So like for me as a teenager, what are like some of the guidelines we've set to protect me from social media and like keep boundaries?
Yeah. Oh, what are some ones? We don't ever want you to take your phone to bed. So because they're all different ages, 3 of them are teenagers. One that is a preteen, she's 12. We used to have different bedtimes for them. So like the older they are, the longer you get to stay up at night. So that means more of a chance to be able to be on your phone and to connect with people. I think that's a positive thing. But once it's the bedtime, like for them to leave their phones charging in the living room and not to go to bed and like while they're trying to go to sleep or trying to wind down the day by journaling or reading, to not have that, because I think it's just too tempting when you're tired. And when you're tired and weak, for you to not be thinking straight. Yeah. So that's the one thing.
I think like also with social media, it's like you guys monitor it with us. Because I think, everyone makes mistakes, and I have made mistakes on social media, and you guys walk me through how do we protect ourselves from this again, or how do we fix this so this won't happen next time.
Another thing is like, I am such an extrovert. I love like saying hi to people. So whenever I see them like talking to somebody, I like come around the corner. I'm like, oh, who are you talking to? Oh, hello there. So yeah, just double check. Like, is this? We all know this person. It's not a complete stranger. Like at any time that they know that we can check. Yeah.
Yes.
Ask who you're talking to.
Even our parents know our passwords to our phones and all that. I think it's important to have guidelines and have boundaries that you can protect and that can keep you accountable for your actions, because it's so easy to do something and make a mistake, and then you're stuck in a mistake, and then that's when you go to your parents like, oh, what am I supposed to do now? But to keep your parents involved in that consistently.
For sure.
I think also for a while you guys were thinking about not letting us have social media or certain social media.
Yeah.
But then realizing it's important for your parents to walk you through having social media in the beginning stages, because it can be a positive, but it also can be such a negative. So having people that can help you along with that.
We still like to have milestones for certain things. Like they don't get a phone until they're 14, and then when they're 14, they don't get maybe a phone number right away. So some of the apps, you need to have a phone number. So it's very limited what they're able to do, and like gradually do certain things, like certain movies, certain books, where like we have a certain age, like now you can read this, now you can watch this movie. And I think that kind of shows like there's maturity, and there's like a reward for ages. One other thing for the phones is they're all homeschooled, so it's like they're at home all day long. They don't not like if you go to school, you have to keep your phone in your locker, or you have to keep your phone in your backpack, or whatever it is. I don't know what the rules are nowadays. But since they're home all day, we're like, all right, don't look at your phone till after lunchtime, just so that you can actually put in the work you need to focus for school. Yeah.
And then in the book, it has like ask yourself questions. So the first one is, which people or information sources are influencing your life at the most right now? So like for you, what would you say is influencing your life?
I'm an open book, so I like to follow podcasts. So there's 3 podcasts that pretty much consistently I follow. One is Sadie Robertson's uncles and her grandfather. It's called Unashamed. So it is like the Duck Dynasty guys, and they're going through books of the Bible. First they talk about hunting and fishing, the first sometimes half. It's like an hour long. It's like first hunting or funny stories.
Mom, where you grew up, did you like go hunting?
No, not at all. So I'm just like, okay. But then they dive into the scriptures and they go verse by verse, and I really appreciate that. So I could be cooking or baking and be listening to them talking about the Bible. That's what I love. The other one I like is called Relatable, and it is Allie Beth Stuckey, and she talks a lot about politics and what's going on currently in America, and she wants to always have a biblical perspective. So I almost always agree with her. I just don't 100% agree with her, because there's just certain things that I'm like, maybe that's too much, too dramatic, too drastic of an approach. But for most of it, I'm right on. And then the last one is the Perrys. It used to be called 30 Minutes with the Perrys, but they always talked longer than 30 minutes, so now they just had to like drop it. And that's Jackie Hill Perry. She is known for writing the book Gay Girl, Good God. It's her testimony. She used to be in a homosexual relationship, and the Lord radically changed her life. And yeah, she now lives for Him, and does spoken word, and she uses her platform and her testimony to challenge other people to live in freedom for Jesus. And she's married to Preston, and their marriage, it's cool to see it as a married couple, that they're like, because he also has different giftings too. He loves ministering to Jehovah Witnesses and to Mormons, and that's very fascinating, but very different, like opposites in marriage. They don't have the same history or the same past, but they're still being used for God. So I really enjoy listening to them. Yeah, what about you?
I'm trying to think of like what influence is in my life right now. I feel like but it says sources. Mm-hmm. So I would say, I don't know why, but my YouTube always thinks that I'm like a Mormon or something, because I'm following all these Mormons that I didn't know were Mormons, and so I think it just makes me like start to think like, okay, there's a reason that I guess I'm following all these Mormons, and so like, what am I gonna do about that? Like, I feel like I somewhat have a heart for them, and I want them to be saved. So I'm like, maybe the Lord wants me to be like a missionary or minister to Mormons, because I don't really feel like that's a mistake, that it's like, oh, all of a sudden I'm following all these Mormons. But to like not take it out of context, like, oh, there you believe in Jesus, so it's like they're Christians, but like, they still need Jesus to be their Lord and Savior. And so,
have you ever listened to Preston Perry when he's talking to a bunch of them?
I don't think I have.
I think you'd find it very interesting.
I probably would.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't know if I can think of any at the moment. Have you seen any sources of influence in my life?
I mean, like, ones that are not so deep.
Yeah.
But, like, I think you enjoy watching, like, makeup videos or different things, because you did do some makeup classes. So that can be an influence, like, like, now you're just more aware, with certain things. Like, you're more aware, like, I can see I have dark circles under my eyes. And, yeah.
I feel like for me, I try to stay away from the makeup videos, because often they do have a lot of, like, the girls that do it say a lot of curse words. And so for me, I was like, I don't want to hear that kind of stuff. Sure. So like for me, whenever I would hear like a curse word, I would immediately just scroll up. And if there was a F word, I would just shut my phone off completely, because I'm just like, that's not something that I want to be okay with hearing all the time.
One other thing I've noticed about you, like if you're working on a paper or you're working on math, that you do have like Christian artists or worship musics in the background while you're studying and while you're doing your work. I know that's not for everybody, but I think that that's something that you realize for you want to make more of an effort, not just listening to secular music.
Yeah, I definitely think for me, I'm more someone that would like to pursue Christian artists. It doesn't mean that it's worship, but it is like Christian, like Forrest Frank and Joseph O'Brien, because I feel like that just keeps your mind straight. I'm like, okay, like when you're doing school, okay, this is what I'm doing. This Christian song I can sing along to, because I feel like as a single girl, it's so easy to be like singing those songs about heartbreak and all that. And it's like, I have no clue what that is like or any of that. So the world wants you to go for relationships and all that. And it's like, that's not everything. Like your life isn't just about having a relationship.
You want to be content with where you're at.
Yeah, and that's
rush into what's
that's
next.
Something that's so hard to do. It's like be content where you are. And like, okay, so for me, being a missionary kid, being here, being with my family, not being in a relationship and all that, it's like to be content with that. Like, oh, I want to go to high school. I want to go to college. I want to go to camp. I want to do all this. It's like the Lord has you where you are right now for a reason.
Yeah.
So the second question she asks is, are you being thoughtful about who and what you pursue? I feel like we kind of talked about that.
We are trying to be thoughtful. I'm sure there's times in the beginning we weren't. We're just like everything is exciting. Like anything, like one thing you click on leads on to another one that's similar.
Yeah.
But now to kind of catch yourself and be like, oh, right.
But for me, like with the Mormons being like, oh my goodness, like after I like followed one Mormon family, it's like, oh, there's another one. I'm like, oh, so cool. And it's like, oh, they're also Mormon. So then like trying to like somewhat unfollow them to find those Christian influences, you know, 'cause that's not easy to find after you've started following ones that aren't.
Sure.
But
I think the one thing that I try to be mindful of is like I am a Christian and I feel like I want to go to the Bible for all of my moral choices in life and decisions and for everything. It's just I want it to be in every part of my day is the Bible and what God is saying. So I can surround myself or I can listen to only people that think and talk like I do and believe that I do. And I do want to be aware of people that don't think like me.
yeah.
So I do try to like read different newspaper articles that are not necessarily what I line up to believe, but just to be aware. Like I just think sometimes to be like, yeah, I do want to hear things from the Bible and I want to make sure it's godly and uplifting and wanting to promote purity and truth, but I want to be aware of what is going on. I don't want to be like super sheltered, living in like I'm just, oh, that happened. There's war happening. What? Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like for you really like New York Times, which it's like we are conservative, but like that isn't conservative. And seeing that quote from the book that Sadie Robertson says is social media is not what we make it. And I feel like that's so true because, like, if we follow certain things, we'll see a lot of that one day and all that. So it's like, yes, we do want to protect things, our boundaries set, but also to not be sheltered, you know?
Yeah.
So it's easy to, like, put off, like, the world is rainbows and cupcakes, and it's not.
The one thing it made me think of is I have really liked to memorize the 10 Commandments, and I found something to use my hands to memorize them in order. Like, number 1 is there's only one God. Number 2 is you don't bow down to idols. Number 3 is don't say the Lord's name in vain. Number 4 is remember the Sabbath days, remember to rest. Number 5 is honor thy father and thy mother. Number 6 is do not kill. Number 7 is this is the mom and dad, or this is the husband and wife, and these are the 5 little kids, is don't commit adultery. Number 3 is do not steal. Number 9 is do not lie. And number 10 is like do not covet. And so much part of social media is like the covet, like, oh, I'm jealous. I want that. This person has that. For me, I see like Starbucks and I'm like, what I would do to go for a nice Starbucks drink. There's no Starbucks in Kenya, so there's not a possibility. Other fast foods too. I mean, I love some fast food. We do not have McDonald's here, but that's such like a tactic of the enemy to make us be like, always want what somebody else has, and to be aware and be like, no, like I'm sure there's other people that look at our life and be like, man, I love how close they are. I love the simplicity, right? I love that they're not so busy. Like we're never going from one thing to next. Like, well, in some aspects, but like you guys are not part of sports teams. Like there's none of that kind of thing. So it's very simple here. So I'm sure there's some people that are like, I just would like to have that. And then we're like, we just would like to have that.
Yeah, I think us girls always are like, I wish I could have been in a sport or been in a drama club or been in all that, because it's like we don't really have those opportunities, but we have all these other opportunities, and our family is very close. And I was like telling someone the other day, talking about how they were going on vacation, and you know, when you go on vacation with many families, you start to like butt heads a lot. And so then I was like thinking, and I was like, you know what? Our family is basically on a vacation all the time in terms of like you're with each other 24/7 every day of the week. And so it's like with that you get so comfortable with each other and irritated by the small things that you like clash like so much. Yeah. Especially us 5 girls. Right. So us 4 girls and my mom, it's like we're with each other all the time. So it's like you get so comfortable with each other that you start to like, you know, argue with each other, or like little things annoy you.
The one aspect I would say of our family, it is very unique when it comes to social media, is like I really appreciate being able to know what our people are going through in America while we live so far away here. We don't see them for years at a time. So I appreciate being able to keep up with them. And then when we do see somebody, so much has happened since the last time. Like sometimes someone that they love has passed away. And because of social media, I won't make the mistake like, oh, where's this person? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and them having to kind of go through the grief like they passed away. But I can like more sensitively be like, man, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Here's some of my memories about that person. So those parts, I really appreciate having it because we live here.
Yeah. So far away. She asks is why are you experiencing feelings of insecurity, loneliness, emotion, I don't know what that was, and jealousy after following so many people and trends on social media. I think that's something that's like so big right now. It's like, oh, follow this person and all this, and it's like maybe you'll get more followers, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's always like one of the trends I've been seeing is like, if you follow my account, I'll follow yours. If you like one of my accounts, I'll like one of yours. If you comment on one of my posts, I'll comment on 3 of your posts. Like trying to get
numbers.
Yeah. Wanting to get followers. You know, and so like with that, it's like if that ever goes down or that's not succeeding, you get like you get sad and you somewhat get like depressed because those things aren't like lining up.
Yeah, she did talk a lot about how the anxiety is so much higher, and it's not saying social media is all to blame, but it does contribute. Yeah. So like the whys of the loneliness and all that, I think it's just we compare ourselves to each other and like, oh, I am not as joyful, or I, you know, or even compare like that person had a horror story. I don't have a story like that. Like I wish I had some dramatic thing that happened to me, or
oh yeah, even our family. The man's like always talking about it's like, oh, I almost died when I was young, and he's like, I've never almost died, but everyone in my family has almost died,
that's
and like,
true. Yeah.
Well, that's not really something you would want to like make a big deal,
right?
But.
And even you can compare like that person. People are gifted in telling stories.
Yeah.
They're very dynamic. They're very enthusiastic, and you're like, I wish I could be more like that. Instead of realizing, God,
I'm gifted.
Yeah,
in this
you
way.
are gifted in this way. Yeah, and
like
that's all valuable.
Nevaeh is very good at going on the stage and talking.
She has confidence. Yeah.
And then when I go up there, I like to stumble on my words and say and like and all this different things, but that doesn't mean that I'm not gifted. I have different giftings than that.
Exactly.
It talks about how like leaders always have to be followers, and I like remember Daddy talks to us about that. It's like every leader has to also know how to follow because every leader, like our hope is that they're following Jesus, so they are therefore followers. Because leaders, if you're just wanting to lead all the time, it's like you could be like not a very good leader because you also have to know. Okay, I have to.
Where are you
change.
going?
Yeah.
Where are you heading? Yeah.
Like, what's the point of just you being a leader?
Right. There's a verse that Paul says in the Bible. I do not know which book of the Bible or which chapter, but he says, follow me as I follow Christ. He's not just inviting people to follow him. He's saying, I am following Christ. Therefore, you can't, like, because I'm following Christ, then I want you to follow me. And, like, that means to pursue different, like, biblical commands of God, like, whatever it is. There's so many issues in churches all the time. And so he's saying, like, avoid this kind of thing. Be unified together as the body of Christ. As I follow Jesus, that's why I'm able to speak into your own life and address certain issues. Yeah. That's the key.
Like, it talks about Jesus is the way, Jesus is the truth, and Jesus is the life. And I feel like we often just are like, oh yeah, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. But like, diving deeper into that and being like, what exactly does that mean? Like, Jesus, like, didn't change to gain more followers. And I think that's something that some people do. They change who they are, or what they post on social media, the trends they do, because they know this isn't matching what everyone else is doing. Jesus didn't change that. He remained the same because he is a leader. And so with being a leader, it's like you're not going to compromise your character because of this or this, that thing. Definitely, I think with leadership, you do have to change something sometimes if things aren't working. But Jesus didn't have to do that. And I feel like that's something that was like, oh, that's, something that's like not common.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like so many people hated Jesus.
Right. I think Sadie was talking about, like, sometimes people believe in this universal utopian kind of belief that all different roads lead to eternal life. Like, you can believe in this, you can have this religion, but for Jesus said, no, it's only through me that you can get to Father God.
Because there's
no
all
other
these
way.
other things. Like, it's like, you can do this and this and this, and that's okay, and still go to heaven. Where it's like, no.
It's only through Jesus.
His
blood that was shed on the cross, and then him rising again 3 days later.
Yeah. And with that, it's like, that's Jesus, like, showing, like, he's the only way. And, the truth and the life. It's like, hands down, this is what you have to do. And that could be really hard because it's like, but I want to do this type of thing and this. It's like, if you want to follow Christ, these are the things that you have to do, which it can be good for some people, like in terms of being like, oh, I have all these things I have to do, or it's like I know the guidelines.
Sure.
But then for other people, it's like, I want to be in this kind of thing in the world and that. And it's like, if you want to follow him, you have to leave that behind. And that is a challenge for many people. And one of the questions she asks is, do you want the Spirit to be your like top influencer? And like along those lines, like, how do you think we can keep Jesus as the top influencer, not letting all these other things?
Yeah. I feel like I think it's an obvious one, but to know people, like for me to know you, I need to spend time with you. I need to talk to you. I need, we can play games together. We watch movies together. We like just doing life together. So to know the Lord more, you need to keep that up every day. You need to put the effort and the work in. So how do we hear from God? Is through His Word and reading His Bible. But then we can be talking to Him all the time. Sure. Like we don't have to just, like where we live, it's all predominantly Muslim, so it's 5 times a day we hear the call of prayer, and so I am like that. It's very dedicated. It's 5 times every day that people are. People have a bruise on their forehead to show like they've been bowing and their head's been touching the ground 5 times a day. But for us, the Bible talks about praying without ceasing. So it's like right now when we're talking to someone, for me when I'm driving and I'm a little nervous, I'm like, Lord, help me, and you just can constantly be talking to Him. It can be simple like that. Help me. It can be like, thank you. That's talking to Him. Thank you so much for allowing me to do this, for this meal, for whatever it is, for my family, for my faith, for the freedom that I have. Yeah. So those are the things I think to. Yeah.
I think like also talking with your friends about Jesus. Like I think when you're with your friends, it's easy to like want to talk to them about someone else you know. You're like, oh yeah, do you remember when us and this other person, like we went to the mall, or we like went swimming in the pool, and like, this story happened. But it's like, and sometimes there's some friends where you don't have another person that you know together, but it's like you always know Jesus together. And
sometimes it can feel embarrassing or awkward, and you feel like you need the courage to do that, but you're right, that is a great way.
I think like as teenagers, it's very hard for them to talk about Jesus. Like it's like, oh, my faith's not as good, or it really makes them question. And for me, I definitely am someone that's like, oh, what's God been teaching you this week? So I know that might be intimidating to some people, but I feel like that's something to learn and be like, this isn't intimidating. This is actually something that can make people grow and help other people, with that. And yeah, it's scary, but like, it can encourage one of us.
Definitely.
Yeah, good. And then the other question is, will you open your heart to His help and wisdom throughout your day to day? So like, how would you say you can do that? Is like opening your heart for the Lord to guide you.
I always say something strange, like right now we're at the coast, like we're at the Indian Ocean, and I do feel like it's easier to like see evidence of who God is, of His masterpiece, because we can hear the ocean and it's roaring and see how beautiful it is with the sky, with the ocean, and you just feel like there's no roof that separates you to talking to God, although the roof doesn't separate you from talking about, but it just seems it's so much easier. We're out of our home context, so I'm not thinking about what meals I have to prepare. So I feel like that it's a way easier, but I need to know that I'm going back to the normal way of life. So how can I continue that there? But even to make an effort here, not just to be too comfortable for you.
I think for me, it's like with us girls, we're always so easy to get an argument. You know, so like asking the Lord, okay, so like when is it my place to enter into this? And like, you know, remaining calm. I think that's something for me. It's so easy to get worked up and like irritated that you like might raise your voice or you're not remaining calm. But like asking the Lord to walk with me throughout this day. It's good to not like enter into this.
Too easy. You're gonna. I mean, the next hour you're gonna have some.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like the last thing to like close it off is like we don't need to follow the world and its trends because we have Jesus, and I think it also talks about like we have hope. And that's something I feel like we talk about like with Islam. Islam does not really hope for something more. It's like you might get into heaven, but it's all about works.
Yeah. And then even because I'm a female, and then me and Jason have 4 daughters who are all females, I always think, what's the hope for a female in Islam?
Yeah,
they always talk about the men getting virgins, all these virgins. Like, I don't remember what the number is, but I'm like, then what does the woman get when she gets to paradise? I'm like,
so
no,
like,
thank you.
I think
Not
for
interested.
me, it's like my middle name is Hope, and so like I think I've had times where I really hold on to hope and be like, this is something I'm so hopeful for. But then it's like in a way, sometimes I have that hope crush. But it's like to always remember that hope is something that's really powerful, and to give that hope to others. You know.
To me, the hope is like for people that I see like maybe in addictions, or I can see like really wicked, like in our town, like there's a lot of like lust that we can see. I always hold on to hope, to knowing that if Jesus transforms their lives, if they repent, you know, and are made into a new creation, they no longer will say those certain things. Like they can.
That's very harsh though. For me, that's a big struggle. Being like hopeful, like, oh, this person can change. You know, I'm like, no, this person. You know, it's so easy to be like, this person's too far gone. You know, but like there is that hope.
Yeah. I think that's a great ending. I'm so super bad at like ending. We have to go up in churches a lot, and sometimes I'm good at like being like, this is what God taught me, this is what God's doing, and then I'm like, okay, bye. Like I don't know how to end it. Like now you go out like and do the same, and you go out and
It's not easy. Well, I hope you enjoyed this.
Yes, I hope so.